Welcome to another edition of A Crisis in Education. Welcome to another edition of the Armstrong-Williams Show. When you decide to come and put a face to these Squeegee kids, especially after you heard about someone who died and was shot 5 times by Squeegee kids, what people don't realize is this is the first time it has ever escalated to that level where someone actually died. Yes, they've been rude, disrespectful, but that was the extent of it. What we wanted to do was put a real face behind the Squeegee kids in this edition of the show. And I gotta tell you, I think after you listen to some of their conversation, you realize they're human and they're just, in many ways, trying to make a decent living. Join us for this edition of the Armstrong-Williams, where we take a closer look and we find men on the street that hustle the streets in what they call entrepreneurship and how they make their living. So Claudia, you're a business owner in Baltimore.
Former business owner.
Former
yeah.
business owner. What type of business?
So I had a toy store on Thames Street in Fells Point.
You are familiar with the Squeegee culture in Baltimore. It seems as though it's escalating. Businesses feel threatened. The Squeegee kids feel they have no other way of creating income for themselves. The mayor and the state attorney has made it clear they're not going to prosecute them.
Yeah, they've made it clear they're not going to prosecute low-level crimes, the state's attorney's office, which is problematic from a business perspective and from the perception perspective, right? Baltimore has, an unfortunate image around the country and around the world, and this kind of action only augments that, and that's problematic. It's problematic for doing business in Baltimore. It's problematic for visitors. It's problematic for residents. It's just a culture of lawlessness that we've created around not just this issue, but many more.
Talk about how the Squeegee kids impact the businesses of this community.
Well, let's talk about the Squeegee activity, right? I mean, you've got, in some cases, very young kids running in traffic, weaving in and out of traffic. You've got motorists who are maybe unfamiliar or who are all too familiar and frustrated, which is where we see the escalations happen, right? I mean, as leaders in the business community, our concern is not just for the long-term effects of this, which we're starting to feel because this is not a new issue, but it's also for the short term. And in the short term, we're getting all the negative press that happens when there are incidents. We're getting the perception from visitors and from residents who feel that they are unsafe. And we have this reality with children in many cases, but not all. Let's be very honest about that. There are Squeegee men out there too, who are engaging in what is unlawful. And they're doing it because they feel that there's a lack of opportunity, or in some cases because there's a lack of disincentive. And so we cannot continue to operate with the understanding that it is a complicated issue and therefore it's too complicated to address. No, we need to have some short-term, some medium-term, and some long-term solutions to not only address the perception problem that creates and affects the opportunities for businesses to attract customers and retain business, but also to create new pathways for these kids who otherwise don't have a disincentive to be on that intersection and are creating dangerous interactions between them, between vehicles, motor vehicles. It's not sustainable, and we've seen that with the most recent escalation.
Describe these kids. Obviously, they like skills. What people don't realize sometimes is that sometimes they force their services on you, whether you want it or not.
I don't pretend to generalize what each individual in these intersections, whether by age or by background or even geographics. Like, we know that some of these kids are not actual city residents, as was in the incident that took place on Light Street. So I think what we need to recognize is that there's no disincentive and there's no path that is clearly communicated for this to stop right now. There's just it's a complicated issue, and therefore we will address it in some manner, but we're going to talk about it and we're going to meet about it. Well, in the short term, there are serious consequences, loss of life on both sides and creating dangerous situations. We can't let that to continue.
What would you like to see the leadership do here in Baltimore?
Well, number one, not turn a blind eye to this activity. It is a dangerous activity. It is not just Baltimore's issue. Baltimore is not the only one who's experienced this. And so looking to other leaders, other cities that have dealt with this issue and taking examples of what worked and what didn't work. Turning a blind eye doesn't work. We see that. We're feeling the consequences of that. The number one thing we need to do is we need to enforce the law to keep people safe on both ends. We need to create pathways of skills, of job opportunities, of education. And look, not everybody's going to want to do that, right? Not everyone who's in the intersection is there because they lack an opportunity. Some are there because they have a substance abuse or a mental issue or many rods, which is why I don't want to generalize. But let's recognize that this is a problem for Baltimore that goes beyond just the actual day-to-day interactions. It has continuing consequences both on the people who are doing this in the streets, in the intersections, and the motorists that are coming through.
And what would you say to the squeegees?
Look, I understand. If you, in some cases I've heard anecdotally that they can make between $50 and $200 a day, and what that day looks like, I don't know. Is it an 18-hour day? Is it an 8-hour day? Is it a 2-hour day? So there's no disincentive to do that, to stop doing that. We need to talk to them and say, look, this isn't sustainable. This isn't something you can do forever. This isn't something that's going to bring you a career. We need to teach them life skills and that there's other opportunities. Look, we need to create opportunities that are visible to them, that are alternative paths, that are actually sustainable, that take them on a path where they can actually grow their skills, they can get out of the issues that might have pushed them to the intersections, and they can find resources. But we have to invest. It's not any one particular person's problem, any one leader's problem. It's a collective. And if we don't sit down and actually start making things happen now, we're going to be having the same conversation in 2, 3, 4, 10 years.
Obviously, there's an issue with the squeegee. Kids and adults who call themselves squeegees. From your wisdom and experience, how should the city address the growing squeegee crisis?
Eliminate it. I respect the young gentleman. It's an honest living, you know. I'd rather see them doing that, squeegee, cleaning windows, than out here selling drugs, pushing drugs. And but if it's going to get to the point, and has become to the point where violence and murder, then I feel, this is only my opinion, you should do away with it. You know, stop the squeegee, and if they don't stop, fine them, put a heavy fine on the parents or whatever, whoever, because I've talked to a few of the squeegee boys and I told them, look, if a person does not want their windshield clean, don't get mad, don't kick their car, don't spit on the car, don't scrape on the windshield after they told you not to.
Has the school system in Baltimore failed these kids where they lack skills? Does this actually go back as an indictment to the school system here?
100% they have failed them. But when I was working in the school system, to me, a lot of the teachers gave me the impression, long as I get my paycheck. Yes, Baltimore City public school system has, and to me, are still failing the children.
Have you ever been impacted by the squeegee kids? Have you ever had an encounter with them?
Sure, I talked to two right up the street. I say, If they don't want their glass clean, don't squirt it on there. They snatched the car door open and hit the man upside his head. All because I guess he didn't want his windshield clean.
And that's just wrong.
Two wrongs have never ever made one right.
And welcome back to the broadcast. We're joined by Christopher Burnett. Christopher, we've spent the last several days on the street talking to the Squeegee kids, talking to the community. I don't want to assume, but do you agree with the mayor that there should not be any kind of disruption to the Squeegee kids' activities in terms of what they can perceive to be as entrepreneurship?
Well, I don't think that it's a fair assessment of the mayor's position on this. I think the mayor has been very clear, as have I, that there does need to be, accountability for individuals that are, engaging in activity beyond squeegeeing. But that at the same time, if folks are, causing harm, if they're hurting people, those things are illegal and they should be held accountable for that. But for young people, young adults, young children that are simply engaging in the washing of windows, that isn't appropriate for incarceration of kids, because at the end of the day, that's not something that, one, that you should be going to jail for. Two, it's not going to solve the problem. So until we address the issue effectively of poverty, of trauma, of improving our school system, and just the larger ecosystem in which these young people are living in, they're essentially panhandling because they have no way to eat every day.
What is fascinating about talking to you is that I don't think you would get much disagreement in basically anything that you've said.
If folks view the entirety of the statement I gave at the council meeting a few weeks ago, it was an 8-minute long statement. A lot of folks focused on one line, and the narrative just wasn't there. And I do appreciate you going out and talking to a lot of these young people, because that hasn't really been happening, right? There's a huge disconnect. So I'm actually excited to hear that you guys got an opportunity to get out there and listen to these young people, because oftentimes they're the ones that we're speaking for them. But this narrative is becoming dangerous, where we're talking about deploying police to young people on every single corner. I would note, Baltimore Police Department is under consent decree for a pattern and practice of abuse. But there is a pattern. And so when we talk about, law enforcement taking the lead on this, that can be a problem.
We're walking to what we've been waiting for, the interview with the Squeegees. It's my first time interacting with them, and I'm sure you are. We're looking forward to what they have to say. Let's talk about the other side of the Squeegee kids that people don't always see.
I mean, we polite. I can't really say too much. You feel me? Because I can't speak for nobody but myself. But I can't say too much. But just give us a chance, Just give us a chance, That's all I ask for. We might can show you different,
So tell me a little about your background.
My background.
Where did you grow up? Where did you grow up? Where did you grow up? Did you go to school? Are you still in school?
Yes, sir. I'm actually in the 12th grade. I grew up on the south side of Baltimore, Maryland. I mean, it was a hard time. But, at the same time, I mean, boss man, to be honest, this right here really kept me out of trouble. It's really kept me out of trouble. At first, I was beating up. I was beating up people, stuff like that. And I finally came down here. A friend introduced me to squeegeeing, and ever since, boss man, I've been down here. I've been keeping it cordial. I've been being cautious of what my actions have been, and it kept me out of trouble.
But how do you get away from the bad apples that gives the Squeegee boys a bad name?
And so how do you do that? How do you do that? That's a good question. That's a good question. To be honest, I got a job right now. That's how I get away from the rotten apples, you know, and I separate the negativity from the positive. And all these people right here, all these people right here, these are my friends right here, and they all of them are positive.
What kind of living does this provide for you?
What kind of living this provide for me? I mean, this is not a living, to be honest. It's just for the time being, you know. It's really I really introduced the young cats. It's really for the young cats, you know. It's for the young cats. I'm 17 years old. I'm 17 years old. When I turn 18, I'm completely done. This right here for the young cats, you know, because they can't get a job and stuff like that, and they need clothes and stuff like that, you know. And I be feeling sorry. I be feeling sorry for the young cats out here, my brother.
Where are your parents? You're 17. Where are your parents?
Yes, working. When my mom and my dad working, and they still together. They still together and stuff. Yes.
But not enough to provide for you to keep you off the streets like this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. They provide great. They provide great, but I want to be out here. Man, the Squeegee kid, I learned how to invest. You know, I learned how to count. You know, how
dangerous is it being out here? What are you exposed to?
I got shot. I was the one got shot 10 times down here. Yeah, I was the one. Yeah. It was plenty of guys that got hit down here. Plenty of guys who was, man. It's very violent, boss, man. It's if you want to be down here, it comes it actually comes with some a couple of well,
a price.
Yes, sir. It comes with a price.
You never thought about going to college or going to some trade school to get other skills?
I want to go to the military.
Military.
Yes, sir. I want to fight for my country.
How do you create an environment where you respect a person's right to reject you when they say, I don't want you to clean my windshield wiper?
Boss, when somebody say no, just walk away, boss. Just say, okay, I appreciate it anyway, mama. You have a good day. Drive safely. Boss, man, I'm so nice. I'm so nice down here. People actually came and got me and took me to Six Flags, David Buster's, and those laser tag and stuff like that. Like, it's actually good people out here. It's nice people out here, and all it takes for you to be nice, you know. And all it takes for you to give them a chance, you know.
Your heart is in the right place. You're just out here trying to make a living.
Yes, sir.
You see yourself as an entrepreneur.
Yes, sir. Always.
Are you in high school?
No.
Have you attended high school?
Yeah.
When did you drop out?
Wow, like
We asking questions. When did you drop out?
11th grade?
11th grade. You did not find school fulfilling?
No.
So you do this to make money.
Yeah.
How were you introduced to this?
I don't know. I just started doing it.
You don't ever feel threatened by it?
No.
You're not afraid?
No.
What kind of money can you make? Is it really worth it?
Yeah, it's 200. It's like 200 a day probably.
But some people, what about when people reject you, window washing their window? Do you just walk away?
I go to the next car.
You go to the next car. What is a day like for you?
I don't know. Hot.
Hot. What time do you start?
Probably like 8 in the morning.
And when do you stop?
Like probably 7 or 8 at night.
All day. And this is all you do?
Yeah.
What is your expenses versus your profit?
I don't know. My mother got this bottle for me, and I kind of stole this from Royal Farms.
So you have to buy soap?
No, I use their bathroom soap.
Oh, you use your bathroom. Oh. Your mother and father together?
Hell no.
Why do you say heck no?
Because I don't like my father.
Why don't you like your father?
I don't know.
Do you know your father?
Yeah.
You have no relationship with him?
No.
Does he help you?
No.
What do you think about some of these Squeegee kids that carry guns?
What you mean?
Should they carry guns?
Yeah, it's for protection.
But should the guns be legal?
Yeah, if you carrying it for protection, like if a mother try to hop out the car with you, like with a bat, yeah, of course.
So you protect yourself?
Yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Okay. After the killing, people are beginning to wonder, do they have to pay? Can they get out of the car with a bat if they're threatened? What is the protocol here to protect lives?
In order to protect your lives, I would always suggest that you be cautious of where you are first. Before you even approach the area, know your surroundings. So when you're coming up to a stop sign, red light, or wherever you may be, roll your windows up. You're not obligated to give anyone any money. You're not obligated to even speak.
What happened with Mr. Reynolds, who has lost his life, was the first time that a Squeegee kid has ever been involved in a situation where someone was killed.
Sure. Yeah, it's the first time we've heard about the killing, but it's not the first time we've heard of Squeegee kids being unruly with random drivers in their vehicles. This is all public territory. They all stand in their ground. They can be outside. They can be on the sidewalks. We can enforce loitering laws if that's be the way you want to go. We can enforce panhandling if that's the route you want to go. But other than that, what more can you say to these kids that they have the right to stand on the side street? So of course they're going to want to protect themselves because they have no idea what they're embarking on. Every day their life is in jeopardy, just as the person that's rolling down their window or not rolling down their window.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of the show. While it may be a sweaty afternoon, I'm only in it briefly. These kids out here, sometimes from sun up to sundown, hustling to make a living. You know, I'm gonna let you be the judge after listening to them and listening to different perspectives on this subject. But you saw it firsthand. You know, we were happy to bring this to you. I must tell you, somebody's son, man, somebody's grandson out here trying to make a living, risking it all just to have a little piece of the American dream. Thank you for joining us.